Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Imam Marc here from Middle Ground in Upland, California. We haven't done one of these in a while, called the follow up, and I like to do these. It's an opportunity where we sit and review some things that were spoken about in the khutbah, and we usually have a group and we sit around and we just discuss some points. Uh, what we thought was relevant, what were some takeaways maybe that we could work on. So I thought actually I hadn't done one of these in a while. I thought that it would be fun maybe to revisit that again. And this Friday, I had talked about a number of different points, but some of the major ones were around the idea of distraction and contentment, and that in some ways, contentment with the world or contentment with worldly life, in some ways, is a distraction. It is becoming overly consumed or possessed with paying attention to created things versus the Creator. So I had talked about a passage in the chapter Jonas, Surah Yunus, the 10th chapter of the Quran. And I talked about this passage of people that Allah says that they have no hope and meaning. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ لَا يَرْجُونَ لِقَاءَنَا وَرَضُوا بِالْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا, that they are, happy about this life, وَطَمَأَنُّوا بِهَا, and that they are contented with it, right? That these are the people on His signs, an ayatina ghafilun, right? That they are people that are heedless. But then what is the detriment of heedlessness, right? And we got into discussing that in a number of different ways, right? Where Allah talks about أُولَٰئِكَ مَأْوَاهُمُ النَّارُ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ, that people who become overly distracted, the consequence of distraction is damnation in the fire. And we were thinking about, in a worldly context, how distraction also has grave consequences, for this life. And in our discussion, we were drawing some parallels between the practice of like texting and driving, which, we've all done, right? I won't even try to pretend that I haven't done it. But this preoccupation with a created thing when I should be focused on the journey. And it was very, I don't get to use the word apropos very much. I'm a former lit major. It was really relevant, this parable or drawing similarities between, driving in this, 2,000 or 3,000 pound vehicle, right? I drive a large pickup truck, right? So driving this massive hunk of metal, barreling down the road 50, 70, 90 miles an hour, right? It's a killing machine. And instead of having respect for the moment, having respect for the journey, right, we're caught up in the moment and distracted by a created thing. And much like what is being talked about in this verse, that we're constantly being bombarded, right, with things to take away our focus, cell phone. And even now, we need a new name for these things, these phones, because, every app you have on your phone has the ability to beep or bleep or sends you a notification, right? So if you get an email, you get a sound. If you get a tweet, you get a sound. Somebody likes your Facebook page, you get a sound. Somebody sends you something on WhatsApp, you get a sound. So now it's no longer just that your phone might ring, right? That's probably that might be the least of all your concerns on your phone. It's not only that it can ring, but it can do all this other stuff. And we were saying that, this is like, this verse, distraction, right? I mean, people are killing people. They're killing themselves. They're killing people with them in the vehicle. And they're like crossing the double yellow line, so to speak. And they're killing other innocent people, right? So distraction has real consequences. And I feel that this is something to ponder, that I believe God gives us opportunities to save ourselves, to save our souls, to live better. And we just started, looking at this. And then, we continued the conversation. And then we started to look at distraction also from another angle, in that not being distracted is not a passive activity, but has to actually be deterministic. It has to be an active, right? So you have to it's not about, if I get rid of my phone, or, it's not these passive things, but you have to be, it's not enough to be not distracted, but you have to be determined to be focused. And I think, if I were to, looking at this passage again in the 10th chapter, one of the ways in which we can not fall into the trap of heedlessness is to think to be more proactive about how to be deterministic in our focus. So, in the khutbah yesterday, I was saying, we often are looking for ways to improve our Islam, or we'll hear a talk or a lecture or a khutbah about, how we should improve our deen. But one of the simple fundamental ways that I noticed the other night when we were having I was giving a short dars, a short lesson between Isha and the Salat al-Taraweeh. And some people were, they were doing their sunnah prayers. And I really noticed that the young people in particular, when they were doing their ruku', right, when they were bending at the waist, it was like this, And I said, there's another really emblematic example of not only being heedless, but not being deterministic, right? Of focus and being in that moment and what that moment represents and who you should be in that moment. So, the second pillar of Islam, as we say, is the salah, the prayer. And the prayer is it's a moment of intimacy. It's something that God commands you to do. And I think some of us have this, let me just get this over because I'm being told what to do. Versus, this is who I'm supposed to be in this moment. And in this moment, I want to be focused, I want to be deterministic, and I want to embody every aspect of this moment. So this moment requires me to stand. So I have my, good posture. It requires me to, whether you're holding your hands or sadal, right, putting them at your side. When you're bowing for, ruku', that you bow, right? Not this little right? And I was teasing. I said, there's some old people here that they can't do that anymore, right? Their bodies are old and they can't, right? but they're still here doing the prayer. I said, for what? What's the excuse for some of us as young people? And it's just laziness and heedlessness and not being in the moment. And I think, the salah is a good, one, it's the second pillar of Islam. It's something that we do day in and day out, hopefully. And it's a good place to start with embodiment, to start with being in the moment, to start with focus and being deterministic. So we were saying that, these things are not going to come to you via osmosis. And it's not enough just to remove distraction, right? Because you can set your phone down while you pray, but you still are, your ruku', right? Your bowing is, horrible. So this is just something for us to really think about. And this could be something that we practice in all aspects of our Islam, right? So if you take it, we could just go pillar by pillar, right? Like the Shahada, the declaration of faith. There is no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger. What does it mean to embody that? How do I be deterministic and focused on that? Perhaps by doing so, I will avoid things that will be harmful to me on that day when I can't protect myself from any harm. In which we know the hadith, right, of where the companion of the Prophet had said that, taqwa it's what? As if you were walking through a path that had thorny bushes and you pull your clothing tight around you so that the thorns don't prick you. Focus, right? Being determined in the moment, being focused on what the moment requires of you. I think that a lot of us don't think about what does this, we think about what Islam requires of me. Okay, I can't eat pork and I can't fornicate and I can't drink wine. But we tend to only be focused on what is required of me in terms of like harumat, those things that have been prohibited, right? But not in a positivist kind of way of what is required of me in this moment. What is required of me in my declaration of faith? What is required of me in my prayer? And that could be, be determined to pray the prayer, within your capacity to do so. Pray it on time. Pray it early, being determined. When it comes to the zakah, giving in charity, right? Be determined, right? Don't just wait for, the uncles to have a hostage fundraiser when you're trapped in the masjid and you can't leave. Don't wait for that, right? Be deterministic. Have a plan. Okay, you know what? I'm going to set aside some money. $5, whatever. I'm going to feed some people. Somehow, focus. And, we tend to think of moments as only like a quick fleeting thing, right? But a moment can be really any block of time, right? So when you tend to think of things like zakah or charity, maybe, okay, what are my monthly goals? What is my yearly goal, right? So now that moment expands from a moment like that to now the moment is a year in relation to what I want to do for my zakah, my charity. The same thing for the fast, right? What is required of me in terms of not just, yes, we know that you can't drink water, that you can't have sex in the daytime, that you can't eat food, that you can't smoke in the daytime, right? We understand that. But what is required of you on a positive way when you're fasting? Focus on it, right? I mean, we all get tired and sometimes nap, but it shouldn't be that my whole objective for Ramadan is to remove any of the hardship of the fast, because kutiba alaykum as-siyam, God has prescribed, has mandated this for you, and wants you to go through a certain kind of experience, wants you to go through a certain kind of journey. So don't be distracted by created things. Focus on the Creator, right? And even the Hajj, right? Same thing, like being focused. So I say this just as a reminder for us to think about, in a real tangible way, how we can improve our Islam so that we can lead a life that on that day we can be the answer to the dua, right, that the Prophet ﷺ, peace and blessings made upon him. He said, like when he would lay down for sleep, Allahumma qini adhabaka yawma tab'athu ibadaka. Oh God, save me from your torment on the day that you raise up your worshipers, your slaves. So thinking and being focused in the moment, like in some ways your whole life is a moment. And then when that moment is over, you have a moment in the grave, and then you have a moment being judged, and then you have no more moments. You just have eternity, either in the garden, which I pray is me and you and everybody else, or in the fire. So just some things for us to get serious about. You know, we live in a time, I feel like nobody wants anybody to be serious about anything, particularly kids. Like, if you're a young person, understand that we live in an age, in a civilization that wants to discourage you as a young person from taking you or your life seriously beyond the acquisition of objects that enrich other people. So may Allah give us success. وفقنا الله في هذا الأمر. May Allah give us success in this endeavor and make us the people of dhikr, of remembrance and focus, and inshallah the people who are pleasing to Him. وجزاكم الله خيرا. Imam Marc signing off from Middle Ground here in Upland, SoCal. We'll be bringing you some more episodes, hopefully in the future, some more follow-up episodes. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.